Let's see, what day is it? Happy Thursday. The days are all messed up. That's the way it works on the island. So my name is Wendy Knight. I am the Vice Chair of the Executive Directors Board for the Chamber of Commerce, and I am the Chairman for the Government Affairs Committee. And the Government Affairs Committee is happy to host this event today. I want to remind you that Coffee and Conversation happens on a monthly basis, hosted by the Chamber through the Government Affairs Committee. And our priority of these events is to bring business owners and business leaders together and talk about things that can drive revenue and business and people to the island. So that's why we're here today. That's why we're here every month. So I would encourage you to watch the SPI Chamber page. We host events like this and have riveting speakers like this on a monthly basis to really try to help provide our members with what they need to grow their business. So I encourage you to keep your eyes on that. So before we get started, I want to recognize the Holiday Inn Beach Resort. We got exceptional, thank you. We got exceptional interest in this month's topic and quickly outgrew our normal space, and they jumped right in and offered this beautiful facility cost-free for the members at the Chamber of Commerce. So if you have the opportunity to patronize them at the restaurants or at their bars or in your next event, please think to do that. To thank them for letting us be here today. Specifically, Rene and Jessica, I believe, were here till very late in the night last night. So if you talk to them, be nice. They're probably tired. So finally, I obviously want to thank Marisela Cortez. She is no stranger to the Rio Grande Valley and her service to the community over decades here in the Valley. She's also now with SpaceX as the External Affairs Manager. So thank you for helping us coordinate this. So with little else to delay, I want to introduce you to Kathy Lueders. Kathy is the Executive General Manager at SpaceX. She is retired from NASA. She's an all-around impressive woman, and I don't want to steal her thunder, so I'm going to turn it over to her. Please welcome Kathy.
So let me know if you can't hear me, because everybody always normally is complaining. So if I start drifting or moving away from the microphone, you can't hear me, just raise your hand and I can take feedback, so don't worry. I'm very, very, very happy to be here today and be able to talk to you about what we're doing over at Starbase. It is one of the most exciting times at Starbase right now. I'd say, SpaceX 4 or 5 years ago was kind of in this decision phase where they need to decide whether they were going to keep Starbase as a test facility or whether it was going to become a permanent outpost for us to be producing, launching our vehicles. And here we are staying. So I'm very, very proud of that. We're having majors here in the Valley and are happy to be here. Okay, and Clarissa's helping with the slides. I'm a little nervous because it's the two of us and we normally crash things when we start doing this. So I'm just going to take 30 seconds talking about me. I think I've been one of the luckiest people in the world with what I've been able to work on. And I've been able to have over 30 years in human space flight. And to be here at this stage of my career and being able to work on one of the most exciting development projects in the world, I think I've been very blessed. And so I'm going to get a chance to now talk to you about what we're doing out at SpaceX and some of the exciting work we have going forward. Next slide. So I still got a lot of questions. I've been down here. Of course, see, this is what happens. As soon as we get started, when Vince had it all working, it was going good. So, yeah. Next slide. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. Maybe Vincent, stay in the front chair right there. So I've been down here for 4 months. I started at Starbase on May 15th, and I still get people saying, "What is SpaceX? What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing?" I'm going to have a few slides talking about that. I'm going to talk about what's Starbase, and I love it when we have videos because I think a picture's worth 1,000 words and a video's worth 1,000,000. So you're going to be able to show how much we've changed, and honestly, we're in the phase of growing even more over this next year. And then we'll be talking about Starship. So I already had a few people this morning. It's amazing to me how many people are paying attention to Starship. A few people are like, why are we destacking? Well, one of the things you have to do before you get ready for flight is to put your flight termination system on. And so all this means is that we're doing one more phase to get ready for flight. And so we're looking at, everybody asking again too, what's the date? That's the $1 million question. And so we're working through our final stages with our licensing, but honestly also working through, when you got a new vehicle, there's always these last things that you have to check to make sure you get everything right for that flight. And so we're also working through that too. But our goal is obviously to have the vehicle all ready to go at the end of September, and we'll be ready when our regulatory bodies are also ready with us. Next slide. So when I was at NASA, it was actually working with SpaceX on development of their commercial cargo capability, beginning to work with them for our science payload missions, and then ultimately working with them on the development of the commercial crew capabilities. And so it's been a lot of fun for me to be able to see how much we've grown. And Marisela, if you could go to the next slide, you can see how we've been moving across the board for us to be able to grow across the southern part. You know, there's reasons why as a launch provider you like to be by water. It's because the safest way for you to be able to launch is to be able to go over those larger bodies of water. And so it makes sense that we've been growing up and growing our facilities here in Texas with their testing capability up at McGregor, and obviously now having a Texas production and launch site here. SpaceX has been over in Florida for over 13 years now, as we've been building up our Launch Complex 40, and then taking over the historic Launch Complex 39A, which actually used to fly the NASA space shuttles, and then having a launch pad on the West Coast with Vandenberg. If you look at, I think we're at 68 launches. I may be one off there every time. Every week we have a couple another ones, which honestly we're blowing past everybody's record for launches. In fact, we've had more launches in the last 2.5 years than the shuttle program had in the 20 years that it was flying. So if you think about that, that's pretty amazing. Next slide. We don't do anything small. I just kind of love this picture because it shows, we started off at the very beginning, and we don't even have Falcon 1 in here. If I had Falcon 1 in here, you'd see how really little Falcon 1 looked like compared to when we worked the Falcon 9, everyone was like, wow, that's a big rocket. When people did the Falcon 9 Heavy, we're like, that is a really capable rocket. And then you look at Starship. And Starship for exploration is going to be a game changer. I don't think people realize what one of our biggest challenges when you're talking about doing any type of lunar exploration or even going to other planets is mass to orbit. And this is a capability that can get a tremendous amount of mass up and be able to traverse and Elon's pretty aggressive on trying to get that cost per pound of payload down as far as possible. And so really our goal is to be able to carry as much up. We're very aggressive on how we build our rockets in a way that makes them as cheap for us is good, to make them as cost effective as possible, for us then to be able to conduct and get the cost of us being able to do space travel down as low as possible. This has been a challenge we've been working on, NASA was working on when I was there, still working on today, and with this new vehicle, it'd be a huge game changer for our exploration operations. It just opens up the ability to start beginning to be able to carry them out of NASA, to be able to do the habitation modules and other pieces that the smaller rockets can't accomplish right now. Huge thing. So, you know, we had our first experimental flight, getting ready for our next one, and we're laying in the foundation for this to be our workhorse for our exploration campaigns. Next slide. So you can see this evolution. This just works through and lays out what has been the evolution of us since September 2008. And so you see the single engine, Falcon 1 moving into, you know, just us skating in the same way. We had an orbital flight with our Falcon 9, just like we, you know, moving towards getting the first stage proven out on our last mission. This next mission, we're really working towards us in the same way that we had a very methodical test program and development, our experimental vehicles. You know, we're trying every time we fly to learn. So every time we're doing even the 67 launches that we're learning, we are learning every flight about the vehicle and the reuse of the vehicle and everything else. It's what I've learned in NASA that's so important. You can never feel like you're done, right? And so for us, we're always trying to figure out how do we continue to learn even more about the rocket every single time so that you can make it safer and be able to get more out of it for the next time. And so in the same way that we had the evolution for the Falcon 9 program, we're at the very beginning stages of us really carefully working through the test flights for our Starship program, and we're at the very cusp of it. But just like we, you know, had these years of us working through it, being able to provide capability to different providers, and then building up and getting reliability and confidence in those systems, we're going to be going through that same phase here over the next 3 or 4 years. Next slide. And this is a picture we just took. I mean, I wish I would have put a picture of what Starbase looked like, you know, 6 years ago at night, and it would have been very dark. So here we are, and this is just recently as we're rolling the vehicle out to the pad. So very, very, very exciting time for us right now. And I'll just give you a quick overview. So, like I said before, this is, I think, what's really, really exciting. I always, when I was in Austin a few weeks ago and talking with the different lawmakers, I said, you know what, where our goal really is to be able to go give those Florida guys a run for their money. And we always internally within SpaceX talk about it. Kiko, who's in charge of our launch operations at KSC, we said, just wait till we're going to be having like dueling launches between Florida and Texas here. So, but obviously you got to get a lot of steps along the way. So right now we actually are in the process of us building out our 1 million square foot Star Factory. If you went out to Starbase right now, you'd see us taking down what were our temporary tents and bringing up our permanent steel structures for the factory. You'll also see we're in a massive housing construction because for us to have people that can be coming in and being able to work right away, we need to have housing there that's available for them to be able to be effective right away, and then eventually maybe move out into the community as they're finding their places, their permanent places that they'd like to stay out in the community. These communities and the fact that we have such a beautiful beach here and area is a major draw for us to get the best talent that we have here at SpaceX. You can't tell the community environment and the ambiance here is critical for us to be able to attract talent. So I can't tell you that enough that, you know, we are always looking for the tools for like what attracts people, what I'm out there like, why is Starbase the best place in SpaceX to work? And honestly, being able to point out this beautiful beach and the surrounding areas and all the different activities that are going on around here has been a big draw for us. So thank you for all that you're doing to help us meet our missions. You know, we do want to be an economic partner. We feel very strongly that we can't do this. We know we can't do this without resources, without having educated talent here, without people wanting to live here, without the amenities, without housing. Housing's a big concern. Educational opportunities. We can't attract talent without there being good hospitals. So we're really looking at how do we work with the communities to be able to, for the 2,100 employees that we have that are coming to work every day, how do we make this the best place for them to live, and then they'll stay here to work. We've obviously, if you saw the amount of money that SpaceX has been investing in maintaining and staying at the Starbase area, you would realize we're here to stay. We are obviously looking at, being a good partner, and also very open to understanding what are partnership opportunities for us to be able to continue to be a good partner, where maybe we haven't thought about how we need to do it. At the end, I'm going to give you an email address, and Marisela's at the other end of it, and we want to really collect all of your ideas on any other things that you have. But one of the reasons I'm here today was obviously to give you the latest on what's happening, but I really also am here to create the connection that if you all have anything that you think we can be doing to be able to help us be a better community member, we would really like to know. We feel firmly that it's through that partnership, and you hope potentially, feeling like we are a good partner and that there's an advantage to us being here, that will strengthen the ties between us and the community. So we do a lot of fun things. Went through this. Vincent's gonna have to keep up here. Go back one. There you go. We do a lot of fun things, and I think one of the funnest things I'll just point out is that the turtle rescue mission. I think that is one of the funnest things that our teams do. That's why you got so many pictures up here where our team's out there. But we have a full set of volunteers that are rescuing turtles off of Boca Chica Beach and along the jetties. And I can't tell you how excited we get. We have a little group chat called the Ninja Turtles, and these people are very excited when they get a call that there's a turtle that they can go rescue, and they get to jump on the UTVs and go out and rescue them. But we do feel like it's another place where we can provide a benefit back to the community with us being there and the resources we have to be able to do that. We also are getting ready for the big beach cleanup coming up on September 23rd, and we're very excited to be getting ready to help Sophie on and supporting the goat. We're hoping we had 600 volunteers I think last year, and we're hoping that we'll be able to get that again. Marisela and I constantly are thinking about what are other ways we can be helping the community, and we would love any thoughts that you have. I already appreciate the few connections that I got this morning about how we can better reach out from an educational perspective and other areas to be able to work with the community. So next is the video. Hey Vincent, you gonna start this? Okay, awesome. use it for recruiting. So we do a lot to, obviously SpaceXers work hard, but we do a lot to also help them from a community standpoint, being there. And so they are very passionate also about why they're here. I've never seen a team that's so passionate about and feeling like they're here to be able to support humanity. I mean, there's a very strong direction that we have within the company about what we're doing is about enabling us to be able to one day be able to live on another planet. And so you've got a whole group of people that have this very passionate view in mind that also extends to how do you help your community. And so I think I've just been amazed as I've been working with the team about how passionate they are about their work, but also that everything that they do in their lives, they really want to have it be impactful. And so the more we can be feeling about how we can help be impactful in the community here, it would be awesome. Okay, next few slides is just kind of giving you the Starship overview. We're, obviously I talked a lot about, Starship being the largest, most powerful rocket in history, almost 400 feet tall, and with 16.7 million pounds of thrust. And actually trying to get more out, right? I mean, one of the things when I talked about we're continuing to learn, we're really, with the Falcon 9, we've just gained efficiency of that rocket over time. In the same way, I'm sure we'll be also tuning these vehicles and getting more efficiency. But just as a data point, it's 2 times the amount of thrust that was there for Saturn V. And I never was lucky, I never had the chance to be there for any of the Apollo missions, but people used to say that that rocket would just hover over the pad for a little bit. And it was just this incredible noise. For those who were able to see the first test flight, I heard the same kind of story. So I actually started a month after. Everybody kept going, are you going to get to go down? Are you going to go down? And I was finishing up my headquarters job in DC, and so I didn't get to come down. So I'm super excited at this next flight to be able to actually see, because the vehicle actually operates the same way. It's got the 33 engines. You can see it as it's coming up to thrust and clearing the tower, and it's very, very, very similar type of experience. I've heard people telling me this morning about how you could hear the sound, and I've been to a lot of shuttle missions, and I was at the Falcon 9, the first Falcon 9 Heavy launch, and those are pretty incredible, but this 2 times Saturn V, I'm looking forward to feeling that. It's always really fun to feel it in your chest. We did a lot of the suborbital test flights. We were trying to do things that people really had never done before, and so a lot of the maneuvering capabilities and the landing capabilities, all those checkouts. The great thing about working for SpaceX is they really believe in this philosophy of build, test, fly, learn, build, test, fly. Sometimes in my experience working for NASA, hardware was very, very, very precious, and so you did a ton of analytics before, and then system level testing, but there's nothing like a big integrated system test. And so it's so awesome to me to be here and working with a company where we're just going to build a bunch of rockets and we're going to learn and test and fly. And it honestly is the best way to learn about how you do your vehicle development. And most importantly, we were selected to be one of the human landing system providers. And so really, one of the aspects of the Starship is that not only is it going to be able to take large cargo, but it'll also be able to act as a vehicle that will basically be a big tug that will be taking our human landing system out, and eventually for our Artemis 3 missions, be able to rendezvous with the Orion spacecraft, be able to get the crew members on the human landing system, and then land on the moon. And And so we're shooting to be able to have that mission in 2026 timeframe. But first we got to get through all this testing. A few more of these launches, we've got to get our next year working through all of the propellant transfer methods and everything else, but all those are different steps that will make this vehicle even more flexible, being able to provide different capabilities to our national assets that we have here and agencies, but also opening up other opportunities for commercial companies. Okay.
Attention to all our figures on .1. We're going to start our no poll for today's slides. Go. Go.
So this is a video from the last slide.
Good morning. Congress created Starship as it awaits our first ever integrated flight test from Starbase.
Flight director still 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Ignition.
So I think what's so awesome, I was still working for NASA when they did the mission, and a bunch of the engineers that were working for me, everybody was so excited about this flight. They had it on, they were live streaming it, and I ended up getting, people actually had it on in their conference rooms watching it. I ended up needing to be in a meeting, so I remember after I was back in my office and a whole bunch of engineers came in and they were like, look at this is like the coolest thing ever. Like, they flipped over 5 times. And like, and it didn't break apart, and the FPS system had to go. And they were just so excited. And they were like, one of the engineers, John Posey, told me, that's what we need to do. We need to build a bunch of SLSs and then blow them up. And I was like, I don't think it's going to fly very well. So, but what I love about it is that everybody's cheering all the way through. It's not like it blew up and everybody's like, yeah! So, it's so amazing to me because, they're being in NASA and kind of being forced to be in a culture of you cannot fail. And not realizing that it's really with failing that you learn. I mean, your biggest things you learn from is by trying, and then it goes, oh, that probably didn't work very well, so let's go do something else. And so one of the things we learned is we had a lot of things worked really nicely, and we learned a ton about the booster. The booster is the bottom part of the vehicle, but the separation system obviously didn't work very well. And so we're doing a new separation method on this next flight, and so the team's been working hard on it, and we're going to see how well that works on this next flight, but I think the team's putting the things together. We learned a ton from that mission and working the things to update it. And then obviously you can see our flight termination system work, which is one of the key things. It's why it's very, very important to have that up there, and one of the features that we need to have to be able to keep our public safe, right? So I'm really looking forward to the next mission and seeing what else we learn as we're going through this. So next slide. Trump. It's okay. Yeah, so let me, well, just stay out there. Yeah. So we had the first integrated test. You saw the video, right? But and then just a little bit of the statistics. I mean, we obviously made it all the way to the maximum altitude, which is huge for us. To have us hit to that max, it actually helps us go ahead and then being able to validate all of our models. Like I talked about before, we have to do analysis, but you don't really know if your analysis was correct until you actually have test data to be able to anchor those models. And so getting that max Q and the loading on the vehicle at that max Q was huge for us. And then like I already talked about, we're already upgrading the separation system and some of the other areas. We also learned a lot about the timing of the vehicles, of the Raptor engines at the base of the booster. You have to, when you have that many engines, and we had to learn the same thing with the Falcon 9, but if you can think about it, the Falcon 9, we had to figure out how to integrate 9 engine starts. We're now trying to figure out how to integrate 33 engine starts. So it was really, really very helpful to have that flight to be able to understand, do we need to, like how you would be able to do the starts, and if you need to change the sequences a little bit more. And so the teams also updated those sequences. And then, as you saw, we were stacked at the launch pad yesterday. In the process of destacking right now to get ready for the final preps for the mission. One of the key things you gotta do is to be able to do the flight termination system, like I mentioned at the beginning. And then the team will go through and just do one more time looking through the vehicle. We are always all the way up to flight. It's not like we say, oh, we're done 2 weeks ahead, not going to do anything else. That team and the responsible engineers for each of the areas are diligently continuing to look through all the issue tickets, figuring out is there anything else that they can be doing to make this vehicle and the mission be as successful as possible. So, no rest for the weary. These people have been working really, really hard to get going, and I think right now everybody is very excited to see that vehicle assembled at the pad. We, in one of the slides ahead of this, we took a picture on Tuesday, and you know, I tell my team, I said, you know, these are, when we're in the launch area, we sometimes don't stop and kind of recognize how amazing it is what we get to do every day, you know? And myself slowly going back, but you can see it was amazing to be out there with the team. It was also very hot. And we were probably almost like all of us sticking together with the amount of sweat on us. But anyway, but it just was so amazing to be able to be there and have that chance to be there with the team that's been working so hard to get that vehicle there, and then to be able to celebrate it being there up on the pad. So more to come. Now the last thing, Marisela, we'll make sure when we do this again for anybody else, but everybody get your pens out, because I'm going to give you that email address that I told you before. Starbase External Affairs, all one word, at SpaceX.com. And so if there's anything, any questions you guys have, or, please be able to contact us with that. And now I'll take questions in the room.
Yes, the impact of SpaceX, as you mentioned, 2,100 employees are presently located there. The percentage of the impact of employment from the Cameron County area, I've always been told that we lack the physical attributes that are needed out there. And I'm wanting to verify, and I believe it, that SpaceX has donated and contributed $30 million into Cameron County. $5 million was allocated to facilitate a building of a vocational type operation, and naturally the balance was spread out through the Brownsville ISD community, plus the downtown $5 million to upgrade it. What is the lacking part that is needed still at SpaceX without bringing in people, naturally the technology and such that is needed for the balance of time coming in?
Yeah, we actually, I would say Cameron County overall has been very good to us. I mean, we've been able to pull in about 80% of our employees from the valley. A lot of the trades folks, basic skills. It's one of the things that I think we need to continue to work on, because I just working with the next decade folks, I'm actually kind of worried about us continuing to keep the pipeline going because if you can imagine those vehicles, we do tons of welding, assembly, large lift move, crane operators, just putting those vehicles together and being able to do operations on the pad, construction for the key areas. Guess what? Those are also the big things that next decade we'll be doing going forward, and they're looking at bringing in like 5,000 people to be doing construction across the board over the next 5 to 6 years. So my big concern is really about keeping that pipeline going and working with educational systems here and other areas on obviously having engineers here, but also technicians, welders, construction people, operators, and all the critical skills that we need for us to be able to keep producing, testing, launch vehicles, and then eventually being able to fly them. A lot of the basic skills that the oil and gas industry has created from a pipeline and other aspect perspective actually has really helped us being able to, like with building the pads and maintaining the systems and having the key welders and other areas to be able to build our launch vehicles. But I do think us continuing to work together on critical aspects is important. I do think over time, too, as we're here and we can be starting to work. There's a few skills that really are gained when you've already been operating launch vehicles. So, like pad design people. Well, really the only place that people had designed pads was at the Cape before this, and Bandy in a few places. So we've got to bring in expertise from those areas because that had built our pads in those areas and bring them in. But you can teach people about that here, and we'll be looking at potentially building another pad coming up. There's other critical skills that just from us being able to learn how to do our GNC, all of our guidance, navigation, and controls for launch vehicles. That tends to be very specialized, and so far has been kind of located in our Hawthorne facility or at the Cape. But those are skills that we'll be doing here, and if we have a workforce of folks here that are from the Valley that are part of those teams that are working those areas, it'll be a way for us to start gaining that in the schools here too. So we have a great partnership with both the University of Texas and Texas A&M. and are looking at other ways that we can be working with the schools around here to keep the pipeline for both technicians and engineers strong for us, because that would really, I feel like it's going to be a kind of a sought after commodity in this area with all the other industry coming in. Start here and then there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, from your employee standpoint, can you help us understand what they are looking for when you move out of Starbase and they're looking for housing? Are they looking for renting? Are they looking for buying condos, apartments? Help us understand your employees' needs and how we can help.
Yeah, I really feel like, and this is something Marisela and I are trying to feel like, how do we give you guys a better sense of the demographics? Because I would say SpaceX, 20 years ago was all 22-year-olds, right? Well, guess what? 22-year-olds grow up to be 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds, and they have families now and everything. So I think what we're finding out is that it's not just single people anymore, it's families, it's the whole range. I do think we need to do a better job of letting the communities know what our demographics are for those people that are coming and what's needed. A lot of what I've been doing over the last 4 months is really more trying to get people with families connected to housing, schools, medical services. I mean, I when I first came in and was kind of walking around and talking to everybody, I mean, there's literally families that they would fly the spouse back to LA to have a baby. And I'm thinking, well, somebody's not getting information about what's here. And obviously it's hard when you're moving in and you may be pregnant or your spouse is pregnant or whatever, that you are getting away from your OBGYN and the capabilities are there. But I think a lot of it's just education about what is here and getting people comfortable and being able to work with them on it. But I do think we've got to do a better job of giving you the demographics. We have a range of people. We have people that do just want to come in and rent, but we also have a lot of people that want to come in and buy homes and settle, and there's not a lot of information about what's the neighborhoods for them to be able to do. So we're also trying to figure out how do we have that discussion with people about where's a good place for them to do. The other big thing we're working on is how do we make the transportation costs as small as possible for our employees. And so we have started like the bus service down Highway 4, where we pick up our employees at Oklahoma and then give them Wi-Fi and the ability to bypass our Border Patrol checkpoint is a major headache in us right now because it really causes a huge delay when we're doing shift changeovers, and sometimes we've had like 250 cars lined up at the Border Patrol. It's very, very tough for us.
So in addition to that, I know you've had a hovercraft.
Yeah.
Are you looking at a better transportation system from South Padre, Port Isabel area that would take people?
We actually are. I came over on the hovercraft this morning. It was a beautiful, very beautiful ride this morning going across the bay. But I've actually started another hovercraft that will be going into Port Isabel because we're wanting to get people to be able to live and work from there and also from Padre. So we're trying to figure out how we can give people access to as diverse options as possible and help that transportation onto site be as comfortable for them as possible to get them there. It's really, really tough if you're, work 12 hours and then you got an hour and a half ride home or an hour ride home. And so we're trying to or coming into work and you've already eaten up that amount of time. So we're trying to help our employees with that transition.
Thank you.
Obviously, most of us are here today because we're pro SpaceX. There's a portion of the community who's not as favorable towards SpaceX as we are, and I think their main concerns are environmental. What can you tell those people to assure them that you are good stewards of the environment at Boca Chica?
Yeah, you know, Amy Lueders, who's the head of the local regional director of Fish and Wildlife, is coming in to visit with us next Tuesday. And we do feel very strongly about how do we coexist. You know, I came from the Kennedy Space Center, and obviously around Kennedy Space Center is one of the largest wildlife refuges in the country, and we've been able to figure out how to coexist with launch vehicles and wildlife refuges there. And so I think we've done a lot of things to be able to work and live in the environment we're in. And we have specialists and work with the Texas Parks and Wildlife team and the Fish and Wildlife folks to continue to adjust our operating methods and lessen the impact of anything that they're viewing as impacting the environment around. You know, the nice thing is when you have a launch pad, we like to have a lot of clear area around, and we won't be developing, so it's really kind of keeping that area too. So I really feel like us continue to work together on it, and how do we best work through that and work together is going to be important. It's a constant thing. It's a constant thing. You know, we right now are making modifications to the pad and the pad area to make sure that we're capturing. We added most rocket systems, we have some type of a cooling system to be able to cool the pad area. Normally you have a flame trench when you have rocket. Our launch pad's a little bit different. We don't have a flame trench. And so one of the things we learned on our first test was how did the launch pad and the vehicle interact together. And based on the fact that we had some damage, we actually added a cooling system and a way to then mitigate and protect both the pad and keep the impacts of that contained to the pad environment. That's just one example of how we're improving to be able to keep containment to the pad area, and that we've been working with the Fish and Wildlife on better how to improve our designs to do that. We'll just have to keep working together. Being at KSC, we had to work, you know, we had Fish and Wildlife, but I think it's with that partnership that that helps us. Yeah, sorry.
How close are we to meeting all of the requirements from the last launch from the Office of Commercial Space Transportation? And when can we expect the next launch and getting a permit?
Yeah. You know what? What I really appreciate, honestly, is it's really tough to make sure that a space launch provider is meeting all the rules in the FAA licensing process. And we just started. There's a new FAA regulation called FAR Part 450 that is fairly new. And one of the things that you recognize when you have a new regulation is we all got to figure out what exactly do all the new parts of that mean, right? And so I think the FAA has been a great partner with us to work with us and work with our compliance matrix under this new regulation and make sure that we're showing the evidence that we are complying with the regulations that are established to really be able to keep the public safe. And so we're in that process now. I think we're in the final kind of process of going through that compliance matrix, working the verification. But the FAA needs to be able to have the time to go through it all and ensure that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, they also are standing up to say we've done what the U.S. government and the nation has asked us to do. So we've been obviously meeting very closely together, and I'm hoping that we get this done in the next 2 or 3 weeks, but we just got to do the work. Right? We just got to do the work. I used to always tell everybody, we're not going to fly till we're ready. And it still applies. We're not going to fly till we're ready.
all again for joining us for Coffee and Conversation. We do this every month. We are so grateful to you for your attendance and for SpaceX for coming. And thank you again to the Holiday Inn Beach Resort. We'll see you next month.